Just want to share a bit of my background, which is also going to be on the slide, but I'd rather to share it to you by myself first. So basically, I'm actually from the background of, I previously worked in various corporate backgrounds, from the oil and gas industry to logistics, also to port management, and even in construction. And I have began my journey as a trainer, focusing more on the sustainability since 2019. And so today, why I'm here is today specifically to share with you on sustainability and the law, right? I know the buzzword currently you always hear everywhere is this word called ESG, right? So yeah, ESG is definitely a mainstay or a component, great component of what sustainability is all about. But today, what I'm here to do is to share with you a little bit more on ESL. That I will expand later on that. But do bear with me because we only have about 40 minutes, so I will try to pace myself accordingly. And if you do have any questions, because this session is I have to continuously share. So if you don't mind, you could actually reserve your questions for the end of session. But if it's really ultimately important, do leave a message, and I'll try my best to read it as I go along. Are we okay? Yeah. All right. So let me first foremost let me upload my slide first. Sekejap. Okay. What's this? I can see. All right. Yeah. Present now. Grace, just a quick check. Yeah. I have to put mine on present mode, right? When I'm sharing, right?
Yep. Correct.
On the slideshow. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes. No worries. No worries.
Yeah. Present now. Window. Okay. Share. Okay, see that. Start all over beginning. So okay, today's session. Thank you for coming. Right. By the way, Grace, are they able to see me, or they're only seeing the what do you call it?
You can see the presentation and also yourself. No worries. Yeah. Can see.
Okay. All right. Sure. Okay. So today we're going to cover on, okay, first of all, house rules. Normally I have house rules. So if you don't mind, these are the house rules. So you actually can ask questions anytime. But if you can, please maintain your voice when you're not, make sure you're on mute so that there's no interruption during the session, right? So what we're going to start off today is going to give you a little introduction on ESG and SDGs. I believe you have actually attended, I think it was 2 weeks ago or last week's session. And I believe you have already been given some introduction, but nevertheless, for every session, it's good to always provide introduction. Okay, so we're going to look into the legal influence of sustainability. So we're looking into the legal aspect. That's why today's topic is more on SDGs and the law, right? And third, we're going to look into the incorporating sustainability into the law, which is actually how it relevant. What's the relevance of sustainability and law? Meaning we always hear about the environment, right? That's the number one thing when you always talk about SDGs or ESG. But then again, now we have to look into how does it actually come into the legal framework? How does it actually influence our how things are governed here in our country and even in international level? But most importantly, we want to know how is it relevant to Sarawak. So definitely I have to have some examples. I'll give you some examples of how it is already incorporated into Sarawak. Yep, and then we'll do a little bit of sharing and closing. So the sharing and closing will be more on your part, because maybe you have something you want to share, and then we have a closing. Then we will move on to the Q&A session. All right, okay, let's begin. All right, so this is a bit of myself. I've already explained myself earlier. To those who haven't come over, haven't entered earlier, I have a little bit background in the oil and gas industry and construction, shipping and forwarding, port management, and I also even work in SCDC and other various businesses and also employment. So I've started my career in training and also sharing on SDGs, especially on sustainability. I started out more in food security, but later on I discovered that sustainability is not just about food. That was many years ago. It actually covers a whole big element, even including businesses, and even the private sector and the government side. Okay, so this one I'm sure you already know. I'm just going to share this anyway. So sustainability and the rule of law are intertwined in shaping the future we want. Okay, this is what's most important, right? So whatever we do and how we run our lives, how we run our businesses, and how we even behave in our daily lives is going to be impacted by how we take sustainability, how serious we are in it, how much that we can relate to sustainability. Now, let me just give you I'm not going to read from the slide, but I can just give you an example of what my understanding of sustainability and why did they come up with this. If you have seen this SDG 17, the Sustainable Development Goal 17, what's it all about? Is it new? Well, I can say that it's not new actually. It's even started way early in the 1970s when, people, even before that, but it got more popular in the 1970s where people are bothered about the environment, they're bothered about what do you call it, the security, the livelihoods of people, how does environmental impact, actually affect directly into your household. Last time it was like, okay lah, it's happening somewhere else, it doesn't affect me, it's not my problem. But then people started to realize and get educated. You see, education is such a powerful tool. People started to get educated, so they understood that, it's very important, for us to care about what's happening in our neighboring country, our next state nearby, or like in America, they have many, many different areas. So it's a big country, so they start to care about each area of concern, right? So, in short, why is there a sustainability drive? Why is there an SDG 17? Okay, basically, before the beginning first, if you remember SDG 1, right? They talk about zero poverty. Why is that the first SDG? Okay. Because first of all, if you want to get people to buy in meaning to accept or understand or want to be interested in saving this planet. Now I'm talking about the E part, the environment. Before anyone wants to save the planet, people must be able to save themselves first, right? It's very easy for us, those people, people who are in a comfortable situation, probably from above the poverty level to a very comfortable level where you say, we should save the planet. And then it's like, okay, I'll just take some of my time, set aside some of my time, some of my money or resources to contribute into saving the planet. That first of all, it requires interest. But then again, they have the means or the money to, or even the time to participate in saving the environment. But what about those people in various countries or in various situations? We talk about, let's start with those, war-torn countries, meaning ada perang lah. There's a war going on continuously, civil war, year after year. It hasn't ended since 20, 30 years ago. Or areas of conflict, or areas of very severe environmental issues, like there's this thing called desertification, where areas that used to be green and lush and can produce food suddenly become desert. So all these people, their main concern, right, if you talk to them about environment, right, like today, if let's say I'm talking to those people now and you're there attending, I say, hey, let's do something to save the planet. Let's do something to make things easier for the to make the to help with the environment. Do some drive. They'll probably tell you, sorry, I know I'm every day I'm here. I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to just to live. Just to cari makan, as in not the kerja, literally cari the makan from the wherever they can find food or water. They have no water, they have no food. So that's why before you want to even get people to buy into the idea of sustainability, you have to make sure that they are able to sustain their own life. That's why there's the element of ESG is not just E, it's also have S. The social element must be there. All right. So social element also includes, of course, businesses, even community safety, and many, many more. That's why there's 17. But out of the 17 SDGs, if some of you have looked into it, there are many, many other breakdowns. So it's not just 70, it's much more. There's a few hundred you have to, if you want to look into yourself. And some of them are very specific to certain countries, like those war-torn countries. They have more on how to provide safety for women and children, how to provide clean water source. Maybe we don't feel it in Malaysia because we've already come to a certain stage that we've already got a lot of improvement. So our quality of life is improved. So in short, sorry, that was a bit long, but I have to explain that sustainability can only be accepted or be carried out once we are able to help the first level, which is people. People must first be elevated to a comfortable, you could say, a comfortable and sustainable state before they will be interested even to talk about saving the environment, before they want to talk about governance, before they want to talk about what you should do, what should not. Because if you were to tell them all this, I can tell you lah, they're like, ayalah, senang cakap saja kan, kalau kamu senang, tapi kita susah. So that's why it is a bit of a challenge at the moment, because as Malaysia is I would say it's not a fully developed nation, but we're a developing nation. We are not third world, obviously. We're a developing nation. So we will have some challenges in some areas where we still have some areas of poverty that we need to look into. All right. So thank you for listening to that sharing. So in short, we must first get people to get out of poverty, get out of their discomfort, get out of their suffering, for them to even embrace the idea of sustainability. What more for that country or that area to buy into this concept of ESG, which is more towards a business, or we call it a way of conducting businesses, conducting activities in the more corporate setting, right? Okay. Right. So let's look into understanding SDGs and ESG and the law. Okay. So you've always heard this buzzword ESG. So what's ESG? It just means basically it's a breakdown of environmental, social, and governance, corporate governance actually. So it's environmental, social, there's actually a corporate governance or just governance. And SDG is what I've just mentioned before. It's just sustainable development goals. And the law is basically what governs what happens in a country or what happens in any other state. So let me just give you this. I'm not going to read from the slide. Okay. So basically, how does ESG and SDG interconnect? And I'm going to talk about how the role of law, and rule of law also is going to help enforce sustainably globally and locally. All right. And of course, most importantly, again, you want to know how does this relate to Malaysia or Sarawak? Because it's very easy to talk about USA, talk about the UK, maybe Russia, Scandinavia, but we want to know apa benda ni and how does it actually affect us. So I'll definitely going to share that with you that actually Malaysia has already had certain policies back in the days since 1970s, earlier than 2016, way earlier than that. We've already looked into certain policies, right? And for Sarawak, as you've often heard on the TV or even from the media, and on sustainability, our premier, the Premier of Sarawak, always talks about this PCDS 2030. But what is it exactly? Of course, it has many elements in PCDS 2020. And I can say that one of the main factors or one of the main driver is in this, it will be also on sustainability. So I'm just going to share next slide. Okay. Right, so I'll give you some time to have a look. Okay, so this one is just a quick one, as I mentioned earlier. So there are 17 goals for sustainability, okay, which addresses mainly poverty, which I mentioned earlier. And then, of course, it relates to climate action, because we want to go for a zero carbon emission. That's what we're trying to go for, a zero emission. And we are trying to go below 1.5 degrees of increase of, what do you call it, the rate at 1.5 Celsius per year. We're trying to reduce that. We're trying to make sure that we don't, we're looking into the global warming issue. So that's the part of climate action. And of course, equality is about the people. Okay. So this is the one I was talking about, ESG. It's more towards business. Yeah.
Sorry,
can you hear me?
I'm sorry, I think your slides are not moving. I just want to check with you, because we are still seeing the introduction.
Okay. Oh yeah, ka?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you try if you can exit the presentation. Maybe you can move your slides to normal. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Is it okay? Wait, I click one more time. I click. Are you in introduction now?
I'm not in introduction to SDG and ESG. Just now I was still in the first.
I click now. Is it now local context?
Not yet. It's not going there.
Yeah, why like that? Hold on. Sekejap.
Yeah. Okay.
Apologies, guys.
Yeah.
Hold on. I start. Yeah. Oh, you mean if it's like this, it's okay. But when I put it in presentation mode, hold on.
I think it's not moving.
Okay, wait. Yeah, because I put it in presentation mode, slide mode. Okay, wait. One more last time. If not, I will just don't waste people's time. I'll just go for the non-slide mode. Okay, is this part one, incorporating sustainability into the law? And yes. Introduction to SDG and ESG. Okay, now I'm going to click the next page. Is it the next page, introduction to SDG and ESG?
No, you just go with normal mode. Yeah.
Okay, is it now local context?
Not yet.
No, not moving.
Well. No,
not moving, is it?
Yeah.
All right. This one you all can see lah.
Yeah, can.
This one you all can see if I do like this. But the slide will not be big lah, because you can see all these things. Okay, never mind. Sorry, minta maaf. Okay.
It's okay.
Back to where I was. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
This one nampak? If I click at this, nampak local context
Yep.
Ada?
Yeah, can. It's moving.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's moving. All right.
Okay. Go back to here. So we apologies. Back to the ESG part. So that's more towards the criteria used by businesses lah, for them to be act responsibly. for the environmental issues, and how how businesses work together with other businesses, how vendors work with other suppliers, how do businesses go from the top to bottom and bottom to top, and how they handle their daily transactions. So that's more towards ESG. That is actually a type of, I would say, it's also, I consider it under a type of risk management, and it's also like an audit. It's an audit in itself. Like it's a compliance issue. It's a self-voluntary, they say at the moment, but I'll go into it further that actually you can't say that it's voluntary anymore, because although it's self-voluntary, but there are many mechanisms that and a lot of initiatives that have actually can be considered to say that are forcing everyone to adhere to the ESG requirements, because if you don't, you will lose out on a lot of opportunities in the business sense. And when we talk about interconnectedness, right? Apa kena mengenai SDG dengan ESG ni? Just the three. These are what three letters, 3-letter acronyms saja. ESG, SDG, almost the same sound. Not necessarily so, because ESG practices help achieve SDGs by aligning corporate actions, by reducing emissions, promoting equity. What does that mean? Basically, when you have good business practices, when you have good corporations behaving themselves in a sense that they care about the people, they care about the planet, and of course in there will also be profitability in the right sense. The way they make money is the correct way. What do you call it? They don't abuse any human rights. So then you will say that the 3 P's people, planet, and profitability. Or some people will say planet first but to me, I'm a people person, so I'll say it's people, planet, then only profitability, right? So that's how ESG is actually the interconnective tissue, or it's like a guideline. Like when people say, hey, I'm a company, how do I actually buy into, how do I actually fulfill sustainable goals? Because a business is different from you yourself doing some kind of environmental work. Because a business is not just about, we have to be realistic. A business is not just about saving the planet. They have to provide jobs, they have to provide income, and they have to also earn. They have to earn something, right? They have to earn money, or they have to gather resources also to earn money. They have to purchase resources. They have to purchase things. They have tangible assets. So they have products of value. So it's a transaction. It's a movement. It's not just like maybe, I'm a company, I want to save the planet, let's go and start planting trees all over the whole state. That is great. That is good in itself. But doing that alone without any income generation is not going to sustain their employees. It's not going to sustain, which in turn is not going to sustain the community where the people come from. So that's why we have to find a way how to make sure that companies are able to continue to practice their businesses while also helping people to achieve their basic needs. Okay, right. So I will move to the next one. So that's the interconnectedness between SDG and ESG. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the local context. Meaning, what's the relevance of Malaysia and Sarawak, and what have they done? So as you can see, this is Malaysia, not Sarawak, but this is specifically Malaysia. But Malaysia has the Malaysia's Environmental Quality Act. And if you look here, EQA 1974. So it came in, this actually has been around since for some time. So you can see people actually do care. People and the government and the people actually do care about the environment since then. So that's why they even have, example, this is example, I have to give you an actual example. So they make sure that palm oil is an old business, right? An oil industry. So palm oil refineries adopt end-of-pipe solutions, meaning they make sure that whatever comes out from their factory or from their plants or from their production centers, right, which goes into the river, which goes into the soil or ground, they need to have treatment. They might need to have wastewater treatment plants. They have to have some kind of a plan on managing the wastewater. They cannot just simply like, okay, selepas saya buat ni, ada pancur-pancur inside the sungai, never mind lah, let's see what happened to it's not a problem anymore. So they have made it their problem since then, even since the 80s, I would say 80s, because sometimes these acts, they tulis sana 1974, but sometimes it requires some time for it to pass in parliament before it can be enforced. So I would say late 70s to 80s this has been implemented. Okay, so the impact, okay, this is an actual impact, like how this act, this is now the law, because we're talking about SDGs and the law. So how does the SDG, back then they have also SDGs, but it's called something else different. But today we have known it under one umbrella term, SDG. But sustainability or environmental concern has always been around. So the impact is, yes, you can see like water, reduce water pollution, and they make sure that they don't severely pollute the environment. Okay. Next. Okay. Now this one is a bit newer. Now this one is closer to home. Okay. So even though we look into Sarawak initiatives under the PCDS 2030, but on the national level, we already have green technology policy since 2009. Okay, so you see Malaysia as a whole. I'm talking about, we don't talk about politics, we just talk about Malaysia. But Malaysia as a whole, we already have the National Green Technology Policy, right? This is in 2009. So here, why I put case study, it means that they look into more towards solar energy deployment. Okay, this is way before we talk about hydrogen. So before this, they were into solar energy. That's why during the early 2000s or mid 2000s, there was a mushroom of many solar energy companies that provide panels, switchboards, everything relating to solar energy. But back then, the technology was still not infant, but it was still early stage. So the adoption of this technology was not taken in full force because the conversion from solar to electric was not as good as it is today. So if you want to talk about this, is that those companies that adopted early green technology, they were, you would say, adopting something where they call best available technology. That's called best available technology, meaning they would look into alternative energy that's available at a time that is more environmental friendly. Okay, so but at that time we could say that maybe they didn't really look into the issues of offsetting. They didn't have a what they call it, a type of calculation or calculator or a tool to measure how much carbon emission will be released from one activity to another. Like today, as they say, wisdom comes after time. So now today we know that solar panels back then, they're comprised of much of chemicals and a lot of synthetic material, that in order to produce those single, what do you call it, cells that goes into the panel, you actually do cause a lot of waste. What is it? A toxic waste. Would I say toxic? Yeah, dangerous waste. We don't use the word toxic yet because I'm not too sure if it's the right term. Dangerous waste produced, and also a lot of chemical usage. So this is of course not good for the environment and also not good for people. So sometimes at that point of time, when they have the best available technology and when they have the best available information, we are only, as human beings, we are only able to do what we believe is the best at that time. But today we discover that if you want to use, for example, solar paneling, you have to check also which company, how is it developed, what is the process that goes into developing solar panels. You don't just say, oh, I'm going to go for solar and then I'm now saving the planet. No, you have to. We must be responsible. You must find out more. How is it made? Who are the people that make it? Who are the vendors? Who are the sub-vendors and suppliers and so forth and so forth? Yeah. So there's already been interest in green technology, yeah, since then. But now, moving forward to today, we are actually required also under the ESG. When you talk about ESG audit, you have to also check where did this panel come from? What's the company behind this solar panel? Yeah, that's the difference now. We know now better. Okay, so of course the impact is to increase in renewable energy share in national grid and reduce carbon footprint. Okay, reduce carbon footprint. That's always the big method. That's always the big goal that we're looking at. But remember, if you want to reduce carbon footprint, but you're not doing a job at the other part of waste management, you reduce carbon footprint, but you increase waste management in a different way, then the offset is not really right. So you're not actually helping the planet. So you need to really understand where everything comes from, the sourcing. Right. So, okay, this one's just a quick one. Also, another thing is that looking into now food production, this is my favorite part. I'm not going to take too long, but I'm going to share. I was actually involved once in a rice business, a rice trade, basically. And back at the time, I'm part Klabit, so I come from Barrio also. My mom comes from Barrio, and we have a rice cultivation in the mountains there. So we used to do it the traditional way with the buffalo, and just people. It's all people driven, all buffalo driven, all nature. So everything I would say that at that point of time is what is that word? Organic. But as the time goes by, there are lesser people. People move out. People go on to get better income, so they go work somewhere else or get employed outside of barrio. This has happened since the 1960s already, so it's not all of a sudden. Then, our farms and our buns, our rice fields, all abandoned for a long time. So then, of course, there was a project set up by our what's his name again? If you know who is Idris Jala, Dato' Idris Jala, he actually managed to get some companies to come into barrio to actually help us revive the rice fields. And aside from that, also some of these companies were awarded contracts to improve our infrastructure. So the point of the story is, why I'm sharing with this is that when they tried to do this, they tried to go back traditional way, but it failed because it's a lot of it's people driven. So the problem is manpower always. So then they tried to do it by machinery, but you see here at Tulisini drone, right? But that is not what happened back then. We had to use the usual plowers and everything, and all this modernization actually, sadly, it kind of polluted our rice because of our type of field. You cannot use the tractors and everything. You actually sink inside. It's a little bit different. Ours is a bit wet planting is different. You can't use machines in our buns or in our fields. So all the the minyak from the machinery all will seep into the field. So of course the rice will be affected. And not only that, they started to use like pesticides and all that kind of thing because you want to have the higher yield. You have to make sure that less pests. Where in the past there were other methods, there were other traditional methods that were used to manage pests. Like people were like malam, they'll go to the field and suluh lampu, right? Suluh lampu lah, make noise to get rid of the whatever pest is there during the not harvesting season, but during the growing part. So we are now very busy people. We don't have time to do that. So we go and rely on technology. But technology sometimes it causes pollution, it causes more disruption, it causes more damage. So here, what we do is when we look into sustainability, right? When we look into this part, that is where we look into what's the best available technology. So now we're looking into smart farming for rice cultivation. So you can see here adoption of IoT and drone technology in farms across Kuching and Muka. Now barrio currently they adopted partial drone technology, but we're not really fully there yet. Yeah. So as you can see, it enhances yield and reduce resource wastage. What does it mean by that is obviously what I say is enhanced yields because you get to do it more effectively versus a person, because drones they can you can program them to do distribution of various tasks, whereas a person if the 3 people don't come, like out of 10, 7 people, then already habis. You can't even perform your daily task properly, so it'll be affected. So that's why here also we have to look into the PCDS 2030. They were looking to how technology can help with food security or food supremacy through the use of smart farming, which is related to the sustainability drive. Yeah. Then next one, we'll look into energy transition. This one is where we differentiate from this. Now I was talking about last time dari dulu Malaysia dulu dia ada apa tu? This one, hold on. They have mana tadi? There's now earlier on, right, the National Green Technology Policy. That's a national level. That was years ago, 2009, about more than 10 years ago. And then now the update is now Sarawak, obviously it's not now as in today, but it's been quite a while. However, presently Sarawak is looking into hydrogen economy development. So I think you all know about this. Our Premier always talks about it. So we talk about Sarawak Energy's hydrogen production plant in Kuching. And then that we are also, when we say pioneering hydrogen as a renewable energy source and green mobility, we're talking about we are what do you call it, the example. We are used globally as an example of how a state or a country, but actually Sarawak is part of ourselves. So how Sarawak is actually championing the use of hydrogen for our energy, aside from our existing hydroelectricity. So we could say we are considered like I don't know whether you could say role model, but definitely all eyes are on us when it comes to hydrogen at the moment, because there are many other type of renewable energy. But as for the method of hydrogen, Sarawak is definitely, everyone is looking at us and how we're handling hydrogen. So you see, what I'm trying to say is, how does this relate to the law? Now, because we are so much into the sustainability drive, right? So even the way we try to implement our energy requirements, also we look into what's available. So at that point of time, during the earlier few years ago, when Premier was and his advisors, obviously, and consultancy from was looking into what kind of energy aside from hydro, because we so very clean. The best available at that time we were looking into was hydrogen. So of course, as the years come by, like today, they will come up with new technology here, new technology there, and everyone will say that technology is better. Yes, every year, as every year pass, something new will come out. But when you start a project, you have to follow through lah. You can't just build. Example, let's say today the energy is from hempas padi technology, so you start to build a power plant from hempas padi. So if you build hempas padi punya technology, means you use the rice husk to generate energy. Then suddenly next year they say it's actually palm oil is the better one. Then you cannot expect everyone to disassemble all the refinery and then go and start to immediately go for palm oil refinery right after building all is that we can only do our best at the best available technology or the best available information at the time. So I myself, when I was attending the University of Cambridge dialogues relating to sustainability, I did question them and ask them, like, how do you know which is the best sustainable energy or renewable energy to use? Because I see every country is doing different. Some people are doing something called, they use ammonia. They're going for ammonia. Ammonia, which when after cracking it becomes hydrogen. But the point is, there's ammonia, there's hydrogen, there's even fusion, not fission, fusion, and then there's also wind, a different type of wind turbine. Which one is good, and why are we not using the best if it's available? So then it was understood that we look at the point of time and when was that energy or that renewable energy adopted at that point of time. So we stick with it. We have to develop it until and unless it's proven that technology is adverse to environment. Then suddenly they say that you discover, okay, we talk about hydrogen. Let's say the suddenly discover, actually a hydrogen we just discovered with a new scientific discoveries that hydrogen actually destroys oxygen, something like nonsense, just talking nonsense, destroys oxygen. It leaches out to the oxygen, it destroys oxygen every day. Then, the hydrogen is no good. Then they have to immediately think of a way how to recall or change it to a better renewable energy. But at the moment, there's no such thing. I discussed it on top. So every step of the way, we can only rely on the best available technology, and that means what is off at that point of time and adopted and when implemented lah. So anyway, I'm not trying to justify hydrogen. I know there are better technologies today that they say is better, but then everything is risky lah. You have hydrogen at one point, and then they talk about stability. You talk about fusion, which is much more powerful energy. But the stability of containing the energy, so we have to balance. So that's why we continuously look for renewable energy, right? So that's basically as part of the introduction. Yeah, it's a long introduction, but I had to share what's sustainability about. So it's about people, planet, profitability, but most of all, it's actually, if you look down to it, it's actually about knowledge sharing. It's also about learning. It's also about education. Because why? What we believe years ago was something good for the planet, or today's buzzword sustainable, may not be the same 10 years from now or even next year if you discover something new. So we just have to keep our eyes and ears open for new developments, and we must also, of course, the best thing is to also have scientific backing for all these findings. Because a lot of people will say this and that, but we have to be educated meaning willing to learn and to really check our facts before we go further. Yeah, right. So next we will look into legal influence of sustainability. This part will be a bit fast going because the introduction was a bit long, right? So what is this about is how the law influence sustainability, straight to the point. So this one, I think last week, I'm sure that our good speaker was sharing about ESG and opportunities. So I'm not going to go too deep into this, but for here, I'm just going to share that, okay, the global trends currently is that they require ESG disclosures, okay? It means every company now, if you want to go further, if you want to grow in size, in profitability, or if you want to be accepted by the world community, you have to adhere to your ESG audit. So that's ESG disclosure because ESG disclosure leads to your audit or your reporting. Yeah, and then of course the impact across impact across sectors. So a lot of people are shifting meaning they're changing. The word shifting means changing to the green supply chains to avoid penalties. What are green supply chains? Green supply chains is related again to ESG audit or reporting, where they talk about scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, right? That is another story. We don't talk about it, not enough time. But basically, it means that a person has suppliers or people who provide services to a company. They have to make sure that all these people adhere to certain guidelines that is in line with the ESG reporting. So it's like from level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, semua orang kena ikut the standard lah. It cannot be like, okay, 1, 2, 3 is ikut and 1 ikut, and tiba-tiba 2 I don't want to adhere to sustainability or ESG reporting or requirements. And then this number 2 lah, dia akan tersisih lah. He will be replaced by another person who is in line with it. So they want to make sure that everyone toes the line, semua ikut the standard. Because if there's one person who does not follow the I won't say the rules or the law, but if you don't follow the game plan or the way things are done, then of course the other people, their report will be affected, and you could say it's a double standard because the orang sini semua ikut, yang ni tak ikut, then after that when they report cakap saya ikut, padahal seorang tak ikut. So it has to be all across the board. It cannot be one person tak ikut. So that's in a way dipaksa. So that's why businesses shifting to green supply chains to avoid penalty. Penalty is also if it's you talk about the law here, penalty, bila you tengok perkataan penalty ni, then that part is the law is being enforced. Means, let's say you pollute the environment or you cause damage, or if the policies of that specific country tells you that you cannot do this, you cannot, your waste, you must manage your waste in a certain way, or else you will receive penalties. So people macam takut lah, bila takut, because there's a punishment, and then they will try to ikut. But even when they tak ikut also even if there's no penalty, people now are buying in, I will follow this green direction. So semua orang pun kena ikut direction sama, right? So and why they do that also? Because the government are prioritizing green financing and sustainable public policies. That means when government promotes this, then of course all businesses also they mau dapat a better standing or a better opportunities. They will also say, okay, jom kita ikut juga. So you can see here, very important, businesses they shift. The government, they are the leader in here. They're leading. Okay, and associations like, okay, RXA, today our host, RXA is very important sebab they provide awareness and they invite long-winded dudes like me to come and share about sustainability and ESG. So this is a part of sharing, part of awareness, which is very important, because if people on the ground level don't know what's going on, you only talk to the businesses, it's not very effective. So that's why Regenerative X is very important, like associations like them. Yeah, thank you, Regenerative X. And so our perspective, again, tadi lah, this one is still interrelated, but there are laws that supports the PCDS 2030. You already heard earlier on, I mentioned about what the policies are. They have green energy from hydrogen, but that's what they're doing. But the law also has to you need to have some kind of legal framework to also support it. Otherwise, it's just macam buat tapi tak ada enforcement. Okay, next. Now, this is just a sharing with you. This is a real case, okay? Tak ada case, tak ada guna kan? So anyway, give me another 10 minutes. I have to eat into it a bit. So this is an example. So even Shell, a big company, okay, you can see here, even Shell, Royal Dutch Shell was forced to cut its CO2 emissions by 45% by 2030. Okay, and this is ordered by a court. They say ESG is or sustainability drive is by self-voluntary, but you can see it's not always the case. There are governments that really, really look into environmental issues, and if you don't adhere by it, you are considered non-compliant. So you can see this, like even Shell, that means yang kita pump petrol tu, ada company lah, Shell. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically you can see yourself here. Insufficient climate action violated human rights by contributing to global warming. So they're directly blaming Shell, this one, they're saying, Shell, hey, you are causing global warming, so you better do something. You better improve yourselves and do something better. And this, again, is in line with something, with the Paris Agreement. This Paris Agreement is good for you to, if you have time, you just note it down. What is the Paris Agreement all about? It is related to the carbon emission, the global carbon emission. It's an update basically from the previous years before is a far cry from 1970s, because they focus more on carbon emission. All right. Okay, so the key takeaway from that case is that even though, there is a risk if you don't ikut you're not ESG compliant, or if you're not having a sustainability in interest in your company, you would definitely kena lah. Basically, that's the main issue. You have to. Now it's paksa. The law makes you kena ikut. In certain countries, Sarawak is also, they're looking more strictly, but there are a lot of countries that are already championing it and take it very seriously. You tak boleh lari lah. You tak boleh cakap, oh, I nak, I want to volunteer or what. No, there's no volunteer. You got to do it now. So you cannot lari lah. You cannot lari anymore. Okay, now we look at this is another contoh lah. This is European Union Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. They just call it CBAM. So this is introduced in 2003. Okay, they look into all this one lah. They look into all. They put into carbon tariffs on all goods, steel, cement, and aluminium. That means semua barang-barang tu dia nak tengok how much. They look into the carbon emission. They look into what goes into the output of producing these goods. The input is one thing, then output apa? So the output will be carbon. What carbon footprint do you leave behind? So the more carbon footprint you leave behind, then you punya tarif pandai-pandai lah, lagi tinggi. So that's why it's better to be a compliant. It's a compliant business. The better you are in compliance, the better your tariffs would be. The better your not tariff, but the better your tax will be upon you, and initiatives will be given to you. Yeah. So that's why. You see, this is not Malaysia, but again, European Union is not just one country. It's a few countries. Europe, partially Europe, and some other parts are part of European Union. So it's not just one country. Semua affected by this European Union Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, which relates to the carbon footprint. Tak boleh lari. So again, key takeaway. So the CBAM exemplifies how regulatory measure. Regulatory means law lah, the law drive global sector. That means the law now. Tell you, hey, business, dengar, you don't ikut the sustainable practices, and you don't try to do anything that helps to help the situation, you will be found guilty. No more tak apa attitude. So you can see they're very strict. This is international level, but we here in Sarawak, we are also trying to fit into this group. We are trying to be a member of this green community. So we have to also look into this. We cannot say saya tak mau tahu. Then next is the Sarawak's perspective. So this one is already earlier on mentioned about, we have hydropower, I mentioned, but PCDS 2030, we are looking into hydrogen, one thing, but we're still looking also into hydro. So we are looking into the hydro dam, and we are looking into the Balai Dam. This is looking into Balai Dam specifically. So aside from looking into this renewable energy through hydropower, we also look into carbon trading mechanism. Okay, this carbon trading mechanism is carbon trading lah, in short. But I'm not going to cover that because that is a whole other topic in itself. But the point is that Sarawak is into the carbon trading. It is into carbon trading, and they have mechanisms. They look into mechanisms how to regulate this, or how to measure this, or how to further improve on carbon trading in Sarawak. Okay. Key takeaway. Oh, ini saya tak ada S ni. S ni. Sarawak's green energy policies and carbon trading mechanism is memang supporting the PCDS 2030. Or in other words, PCDS 2030 is supported by the law or the policy, because the policy is something that we are to follow and adhere to. It's not, I won't say it's a legislation, but the policy is very strong, especially when it's by the government. When they provide a policy, right, and people follow it, it is almost like law. And it's basically a championing of a certain way of doing things. Yeah. So that's why you see sustainability and law sekarang lah, dia tiada berpisah punya. It's coming together. That means the law is now going to adopt or take into a lot of sustainability policies, and then it will become implemented across the board. There's no way to run away from it anymore. Right? Next, we're going into the last part of this one, is incorporating sustainability into law. My favorite part. Give me one. So we talk about ESG disclosure. This one sama ni. I'm not going to really talk about this one, but I want to talk about ESL. This one's my favorite because it's very important. What is ESL? So this is what we're going to talk about: ESG principles, how they evolve into law, macam tadi, and penalties of non-ESG compliance. That's another thing. And then another one is we look into the benefits and the challenges. Okay. So this one I just want to explain. Why semua orang now lah, companies they are so stressed out. They want to cepat-cepat buat ESG reporting tu kan. Because now Bursa Malaysia, it made it a requirement. Kalau you nak jadi public listed, you kena you might have to do into this. You have to be compliant. You have to have your audited ESG report. Okay, audited bukan you sendiri buat. Yeah, it's real audited report, right? And that's the only way you can get into the main market listing. Okay, that's a requirement now. And then furthermore, companies like CIMB Group, okay, they are banks. They are also buying into ESG report. This is quite a while, bukan baru. To show that the initiatives to reduce climate change and support sustainable finance. Now, sustainable finance means these people will also only provide preferred sustainable financial facilities to companies that also adhere to ESG reporting. That means you gang ESG, you gang sustainability drive, come to me. We can work together. But if you not even bother about anything, you just still want to maintain where you are status quo, sorry lah, I buat you susah lah. You nak minta duit pun tak dapat. Even if you got money to prepare or you got a good business plan, sorry, you must make sure that you also provide an audit report. That's how strict it has become. It has become, as I said lah, dulu jangan cakap voluntary. Nah, it's not voluntary. Voluntary is you choose, but in reality you don't have a choice because you pergi kiri, pintu terbuka. You pergi kanan, kiri betul. You pergi kanan, pintu tertutup. Of course lah, you pergi pintu kiri yang terbuka, right? And terbuka door is you have to follow ESG. So it's forced. Tak boleh lari dah. And then the takeaway from here is, our guidelines is supposed to be driving transparency and accountability. What does it mean here? It means that, that's why I mentioned earlier before, that you have to look into how its product is made. Where does it come from? How much how much waste is produced from it? How much, are you using human capital in the right way? All these companies the companies that provide these services or products, are they treating the employees right? That's the social aspect. So that kind of thing. So that social aspect is linked back to the governance. The governance is also related to macam law lah, because it's what manages organizations. If you don't follow the macam SLO, the Sarawak Labour Ordinance, which is related to the Malaysian Employment Act, you tak bayar minimum wage you macam you don't pay the EPF, everything you tak buat dengan baik, that is also part of sustainability. As I mentioned way earlier, kalau you tak buat baik dengan manusia, you don't do well to the people, then they cannot, when they are not able to elevate themselves or have a stable livelihood, then they will bercelaru, then they will not do things properly. You talk to them about do this sustainability, dia takkan layan, because there's nonsense to them. So you need to stabilize it. So all of this actually is a clear indication that everything is interlinked. And the law, how it's linked to all this? The law is pushing people to behave properly, to do things properly, to be more transparent, to be more accountable, so that these corporations can actually elevate everything that they do to also elevate the people within the community or the society, which is society basically. Okay, last one. Berapa lagi? Tak banyak lagi. Okay, tak banyak lagi. Then the German supply chain due diligence act. This one's quite new. Tengok 2023, very new. So you see, Germany, they mandate companies to ensure ESG compliance across their global supply chain. Global supply chain, bukan cakap Germany, global supply chains. Now, global supply chains, what does that mean? Malaysia also lah. Malaysia. And we are still part of Malaysia, okay? So, Sarawak lah, obviously Sarawak. So Sarawak lah is also involved in this. So non-compliance can result in fines up to 8. Wah, ini ringgit kah? No. That looks like euro to me, man. 8 million euro or 2% annual global turnover. The law reflects the shift from voluntary ESG principle. That means those companies in Germany, they must make sure, wherever that supply, everything comes from also must be ESG compliant. That means kalau now you ada business dengan Germany kan, and you tak ada, you don't have a ESG audit report, you don't have your own ESG compliance, I think this German company will come to you and say, minta maaf, I know we have worked together for 25 years, but so sorry, if I don't buang you, I will have to pay 8 million euros. So I think you know the answer lah. What will they will choose? They won't subsidize for 8 million euros lah. So you have to make sure you are compliant. Again, the law now forces people. Even another country, punya law is now linked back to Sarawak. Why? Because if you are supplying international level or exporting, you are now targeted. You tak boleh lari. You thought you can run, but now they kepit ke sini. Semua kena. Right? Then, okay, from there, this one, obviously, the act demonstrates how ESG principles are evolving to binding laws. It's already binding law. And it affects across borders lagi, all the way to Malaysia. Okay, now we look into last slide, opportunities and challenges for Sarawak. So this one is a true challenge lah. Case renewable energy export to Singapore. Okay, Sarawak signed agreement. Okay, we have a lot of agreements, but this one is we have a lot of agreements with Singapore. We even have this status lah, which is more towards products. But now we're talking about renewable energy. So Sarawak signed agreement to export renewable energy to Singapore, leveraging on abundant hydropower resources. Not this. They are talking about hydro. Okay, and this will create economic opportunities, attract investments, and strengthen Sarawak's environmental credential. It means kita punya country, our state Sarawak will be green country / state lah. Because we are buying, we are also producer, and people are buying to make their own country green. They have to buy from us. We are macam the green supplier, So that makes us like a better standing, and people look up to us as in like we are a nation that is for future business, future economy, future everything, sustainable future, because we are future proofing ourselves by providing energy to other countries who might not have the ability to have hydropower. Because not every country dia ada macam sungai, or the drop, or the waterfall, macam tu, all the water, sungai-sungai yang banyak tu. Some of them like, different type of climate. So they cannot, their renewable energy is different, but they can at least get it from us since they don't have it. So this is a contoh lah. So again, this is a requirement on a lot of countries to go for green energy, and they are also encouraged to buy green energy. So the law now helps us outside. The law bukan law Malaysia, law kat luar, Singapore ke, Germany ke, mana-mana. Because when they say, kita kena deal with green energy, deal with green products, green anything, then meaning we supply it. Wow, we kind of control the market in a way, or one of the market players. So that is a big opportunity for us to focus on green energy or green activities. Right? That's very simple. Then of course, from here, basically we need to look into the development of the law in other countries and how what's the development. Because if any legal development on sustainability or ESG will somehow have a ripple effect. Ripple means it will appear until it reach us. It will slow, but steadily it will sure reach us. Yeah, whatever they do there, it will reach us, especially if it's to do with sustainability. Yeah, so that is my sharing lah for SDG and the law, ESG, SDGs and the law. And I would just like to share one last thing. It's not in the slide, but if all of you have heard this term ESG, environmental, social, and corporate governance or governance. Tapi for me I was hoping that one day we can actually take the lead and become ESL. Okay, so ESL is more towards environmental, social, and leadership. Okay, we go towards the leadership means we champion. We champion means kita tak payah tunggu the law. We don't wait for the law to tell us what to do. Don't have to wait for the law to punish us, to give us fine. Baru kita nak buat benda yang baik, macam treat people better. Make sure the environment, we reduce damage to environment in our activities. Also to reduce bad acts of bad faith, macam tidak bayar pekerja, exploitation. We don't need the law to tell us that. We should be able to, macam in ourselves, we will be able to be the leaders. Okay, the leadership role rather than governance. Governance means somebody tell you. Leadership is you yang buat. Saya mau jadi champion, saya mau buat benda tu. So we hope it is many times reiterated in various SDG forums. They say that it should not be ESG, it should be ESL to be more realistic. Because if you just go for ESG, the governance part and the law itself, that means that kamu buat cukup-cukup saja. The law said you must hire at least 5 people from a certain group of whatever disabled group. You have to have equality, gender equality, or opportunity, equal opportunity. Then you hire just cukup saja. You just do everything cukup. Cukup one. They said you need 3, you give 3 only. So everything is just cukup. You don't have any interest to be better, to improve, or to make it into an environment where it can support sustainability, because everything is just cukup saja. So we should have a ESL leadership instead of just governance where people tell us what to do. We should be the champions, and that's why I'm very honored to be part of this talk also, because RX Regenerative X is also, I could consider they are the top people that want to be leaders rather than just dengar saja. Yeah. All right. So with that, I am here now in my summary is that you cannot escape. Okay, the law. You cannot escape from the law anymore when it comes to sustainability, because sustainability and the law is now intertwined, interlinked. One will lead to the other, and the other will lead to another. But wherever the circle is macam Ouroboros, if you know what it is, a snake makan the tail, it will be continuous stuff. Forever and ever, is perpetuity. And surprisingly, that also is a symbol of sustainability. Sustainability is supposed to be something that can continue to go on and on and on, with the exception, with the difference, with the requirement that everyone benefits. It's a win-win-win-win situation for everybody. It's not supposed to be like it goes on and on, but someone has to lose out. Yeah. So with that, that's my summary in closing. I don't have the stuff for this, so this next is I will leave it to the Q&A session. Thank you very much. I took my sharing dulu. Sekejap, where's my sharing? Okay.
So we can just have a short Q&A, maybe just another 5
Yeah,
minutes.
sure.
So if there's any question, feel free to type it into the chat.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I hope I wasn't too fast, but because I have a lot to cover. Yeah.
No problem, no problem. That was a good one. Great sharing as well. So yeah. Maybe if there's none, I'll just like kickstart with one. Perhaps like, what challenges do you think businesses would face in complying with the mandatory ESG regulation, especially for SMEs in Malaysia and Sarawak?
Okay. So, okay, to your question, what are the challenges by the SMEs when relating to the implementation of ESG, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, the thing, okay, there's a slight misunderstanding when it comes to ESG compliance or ESG requirements for companies. Now, let's say, okay, we know that those companies they were talking about, they're going for Bursa. We thought Bursa is already bigger than SMEs is already listed, right? So, the understanding is obviously you will have the money to invest in those audits, or you will have the resources to so to speak, to grow your company. That's a kind of like a understanding. But for SMEs, they're still small. You have micro even, right? Micro, SME and SMEs. So the issue here is always about berapa banyak duit nak keluarkan daripada pocket just to go and get an audit report to implement all these sustainable drives, your sustainable, your green policy. Your zero emission, your carbon free, to observe all this. It's always about other duit, money. But just let you know, we are allowed, for some companies, we are allowed to grow step by step. It means, first of all, okay, you might need to go to a consultant, but you don't have to go to the consultant yang beribu-ribu ringgit to artis berjuta to tak payah. You might need to get an awareness, a more advanced awareness than what I'm sharing today, so that you faham betul-betul, and you can start to attend like forums and even sessions to understand more what is ESG about, how do companies implement. You might not have the full framework that other bigger companies are doing, because maybe your company is only 3-4 orang saja. But if you understand what is ESG or reporting all about, what is the framework, if you can get a framework or a basic framework. Nowadays, a lot of agencies are sharing parts of it. They give you tools. Okay, if you don't even have the tool, as long as you adopt your own policy, okay, your sustainability policy or your sustainability pledge. It starts with a pledge. It just starts with you saying, I want to pledge myself into this sustainability drive. I want to become a company that will grow or operate in a sense that it will be ESG compliant. So you are allowed to self audit yourself. You just go stage by stage. You let's say, okay, I give you a very realistic, but it sounds shallow, but it's a realistic thing. You can even have like energy savings policy. Macam the office, very basic. All the lights are pakai tutup. Lunchtime, you off it during lunchtime, you off everything. That one you put it inside your activity, or what you do, your drive, what is your pledge, how you and put more signages in your office to give awareness. You start very small, then you grow bigger. As when the time comes, let's say they require you to like maybe say, okay, there is this thing, halal standard, GMP. All those standards are also part of sustainability, because if you want to have a factory, let's say you start smaller, you do they call it a cottage industry, but you want to grow into a factory setting, whether it's light industry or heavy industry. You step by step, you have to get licenses. You need to get licenses, permits, and whatever requirements that you require by the government. You need to fulfill that, right? But that's also part of sustainability, believe it or not. That's part of ESG, because all those things are, like example, why you have this GMP, why you have that HACCP, is to ensure that whatever you produce is bersih and not kotor, is clean. First of all, it's clean, it's safe. So that part already covers one part. But the other part is like halal, it has to be bersih, right? But maybe halal doesn't really cover waste management. So that waste management part, you have to go and look at yourself, that try to find the best available technology within your budget to reduce wastage. Look at waste management now. If you know that this machine you buy is from, this machine is like you buy from someone, is from 1980s, like contoh, 1970s. I don't know why is it from that time, but so it produced so much of sludge, blah, blah, blah. When you produce 1 kg or something, it produces 300 gram of waste that teruk tak boleh pakai or causes pollution. Then you go and try your best to see whether you can find new machineries that can actually reduce all this waste, improve productivity, and furthermore, governments now you can actually get grants for certain machineries if you can prove that. First of all, you have to have a business proposal. Then other than that, you also maybe look into how your sustainability proposal is also included. Then you justify why are you looking for this grant and why you need this machinery. All those things will help because now government and even financial assistance, they normally want to look into all these things because it's the state and even our national level of interest to be in sustainability. So all these things, kalau you start small, you go step by step, you still can adopt it. You don't have to straight away terus ESG macam itu berusaha punya, they pay a few $100,000 to Ernst and Young. I just say one name lah, Ernst and Young, but there are many more lah. Yeah, you can actually start small. It's not like terus, saya mesti buat satu standard, hire consultant terus buat ESG. It depends on the size, it depends on your appetite of how much you want to grow. And also for you to be more resourceful, to be aware of what's going on and go and look for the resources. Okay, that's the short answer, made long. Okay, next one's the question.
All right, thank you. I think there's no questions at the moment from the chat, so no worries. Maybe we can have a group photo before we wrap up.
Boleh.